Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon. This is Tina Salisbury, Collaboration Manager with Combined Arms. And today we're here talking with one of our member organizations, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Greater Houston. And we have with us Tunde Agboke, who is the Volunteer Recruitment Manager. So Tunde, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do with Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Well, thank you for having us, Tina. My name is Tunde Agboke, and like Tina said, I'm the volunteer recruitment manager. Essentially, my role with the organization is to get out into the community and talk to people about what it is we do and how they can either join us in that effort as a mentor or if they know a child in need of a mentor. So my entire role is getting out into the community and talking to the people.
All right, perfect. So I know one of your major programs and what we have you in our system for is for volunteerism to recruit those veterans who may be interested in being a big brother or a big sister to do youth mentoring. So can you talk about that program and how somebody can get involved and what it entails?
Yeah, definitely. So we have several programs at Big Brothers Big Sisters, right? But our biggest program is what we call our community-based program. And in our community-based program, it essentially is where we take a big, so an adult, we take a big and we match them with a little. So any child between the ages of 8 and 14 that is part of our program. And we match them based on two criteria. The first being compatibility, right? So when we initially interview and meet the big and initially meet and interview the little, we get to know the ins and outs of who they are. We ask all types of questions about their past, their present, their goals, their ambitions, things like that to get to know them. And we use those two things to match the big and little. But before we do that, we've got the compatibility part. We also need the proximity part because we live in a very vast city like Houston. We don't want to match somebody in Katy with somebody who lives in Webster. That's not going to work. You're never going to see each other. So once we have a compatible match, what we do is we work on proximity, right? So based on your zip code, we try to look for a little and a big within the same zip code or within a zip code touching each other. And when you talk about military vets specifically, a big thing for us is when you're looking for a mentor, right? For a mentor who's going to help guide a child, right? Be that additional adult in a child's life. You're looking for somebody who's responsible, dependable, right? And those two adjectives describe people in the military and military veterans. So for us, it's a no-brainer to come to Combined Arms to try to find some mentors.
Yeah, that's perfect. I was just about to ask you the question of, what kind of skills do you think military veterans bring that make them good candidates for mentors? So, what are some of the other qualifications in order to be a mentor?
We're not looking for superheroes, right? We're not looking for anybody who is going to save the day and save this child from wherever it is they think the child might be coming from. What we're looking for mentors is we're looking for people who are going to serve as positive youth development people. Somebody who says, all right, you know what? I'm going to add whatever positivity to this child's life that I can add. Because the one thing we don't want is somebody who comes in and says, you know what? Let's ignore whatever the parent and guardian is doing with the child over here. I'm the one who's raising this kid. That's not what we're looking for, not even in the slightest. We're looking for an additional adult in the child's life who's going to be a positive influence, right? With something is, I'll give you a perfect example, right? Let's say I'm a little. Let's say I'm a little, and I was in school today, and I had a bad day at school because we all know sometimes school can be rough, right? Let's say one of my friends told me my shoes are ugly or something like that, right? Something as basic as having a conversation with another adult about why bullying or peer pressure and how it can affect a young person and how I should deal with it the next time it happens, right? Like basic stuff like that is what we're looking for. Not, hey, we need you to do their homework and get them a job. That's not what mentoring is for us.
So, when a big is connected with a little, what is the time commitment? Are they basically on call to their little, or how often do they meet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as part of our community-based program, like I mentioned, the biggest program we have, essentially, typically, right, pre-COVID and post-COVID, when we all start meeting face-to-face again, in community-based, it's a minimum of 4 hours a month. So it's not 4 hours. Heck, we've got this is a really interesting one that I heard about. There was a big and little who weren't sure how to spend their first time together, their first interaction. And what they decided to do was, because they both really like dogs, they decided to wash their dogs together. So that something as simple as that, you're washing your dog, the little's washing their dog, and you're bonding over that common love of an animal. So for us, it's 4 hours a month, right? Minimum for a year. So we tell people, if you think that you are leaving Houston in the next 6 months, 5 months, whatever, if you're pretty certain you're leaving, don't sign up, because we don't want a situation where you come into a child's life and then you leave. But if you're fairly certain that this time next year you're gonna be here, then you should sign up. And the thing for us is, the sooner you sign up, the better, because the whole process to go from application to becoming an actual mentor takes about 2 months, right? Because we're really thorough with our interview process, and then from there we're thorough with our training process and our background checks, and then we're thorough with our matching process. It all doesn't just happen overnight. It's a lot of meticulous planning and thinking and organizing. So once we get that match, the hope is that it's a long lasting match, because we put so much effort into making it.
So with the application process, are there any things that would disqualify somebody from being a mentor, like on their background check or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest commonest misconceptions about being a mentor for us is that a criminal background automatically disqualifies you, right? And it doesn't automatically disqualify you. What does automatically disqualify you is if you have some type of criminal background to do with assaulting a child, right? Outside of that, everything else we take on a case by case basis and try to figure out why whatever it is happened. And what I will say is, if you do have something in your background that you might feel might be unpleasant, or something that you're not comfortable sharing, if you decide to apply during the interview process, if you don't divulge that and then we find out, now it seems as though you were trying to hide it. And there is probably a 0% chance we're going to match somebody who is trying to hide things with somebody else's child. So it's better to just tell us, and let's work through it together, and then we'll go on from there.
All right. So can you also talk about the children who are part of the program? Who are the children that are eligible for this program? Is there an eligibility, or is it just any child who's enrolled that's under the age of 14?
Yes. So as far as our community-based program, any child. It does, if you know a child that you believe would benefit from a mentor, which in my opinion is every child. I know I had mentors. So if you know a child that you believe would benefit from a mentor, they can apply to become a little in our program, and then they'd go through their version of the interview process. And I think when you talk about misconceptions, right, another misconception about the littles in our program is every single little is coming from some type of disadvantaged background. And that's not always the case. Now, is there a portion of our littles who definitely are battling things and overcoming different hurdles? 100%. But there's also a portion of littles who are just in situations where whoever their parent or guardian is feels like they would benefit from another mentor. And the thing about us is, when we are recruiting mentors, aka bigs, for our littles, we make it clear to the bigs and the mentors that when we match you, we're gonna match you based on information we get from you, right? So we're not just gonna sit here and be like, you know what, I think Tina is gonna work with Stephanie just because I say so. No, it's gonna be based on our conversation, our honest and frank conversations. Because what we don't want to happen is you tell us, hey, I'm cool being a mentor to anybody, but then in actuality, you only wanted to be a mentor to kids over the age of 12, right? So it's better for you to just tell us so we know, because we end up matching you with somebody who's 7, or I mean 8, and you only wanted 12 and up, then it's an issue, right? So for us, there is no limitation on the child, right? As long as the child actively wants to be mentored and their parent and guardian actually wants them to be mentored, then we're going to do everything we can. Now, to pivot to our Mentor 2.0 program, because you had mentioned the cutoff at 14, we have a program called Mentor 2.0 that is actually 14 to 18. And that specifically, we're working with specific high schools in Houston. And the way that works essentially is it's a completely online platform where the mentors and the mentees communicate on this online platform. And then they meet in person about once every 6 weeks. Again, whether you're talking about Mentor 2.0 or our community based, nobody's meeting in person right now. It's all electronic. But when you're talking about post and pre COVID, it was for Mentor 2.0 electronic, meet in person once every 6 weeks. And the thing about Mentor 2.0 is because those kids are older, the conversations are a little bit different, right? Because you're dealing with high school kids at this point. So I was talking to a big one time at one of our young professionals gatherings, and he was talking to me about the little he's matched with, and he was talking about how essentially his little had told him he was interested in finance, and the big had asked him, okay, so tell me what you know about finance. So the little told him a couple things, and the big essentially spent the next couple of weeks like schooling him on finance, right? Not getting him a job, not doing his homework, but just teaching him the ins and outs of finance, right? That he because he worked for a bank. So that's what we're looking at when you talk about mentorship in general. But if you're looking for, especially female bigs or female possible mentors, if you are looking for a mentorship platform where it's not as time inclusive as our community based, Mentor 2.0 is the one, because we are in a huge need for female mentors in Mentor 2.0.
So can you talk about that need for females? Why does that exist? Is it just a lack of applicants that want to be mentors as females, or why is there a larger need for female mentors?
It's actually it's kind of interesting, right? And it's not because it's a lack of applications, because of how our programs are shaped, right? Our community-based program, because it's more personal, right? Because you're having more one-on-one interactions with the littles, we have an overwhelming number of female applications to be community-based mentors, right? And it's the opposite for our men. We have an overwhelming number of mentors who are men who want to be mentor 2.0, right? No knock on men. I'm a guy, I guess. So I'm not knocking men, but it seems as though men drift towards more mentor 2.0 because there's less contact, and our female mentors are drifting towards community based. So what we've ended up with is a situation where we have all these young girls in Mentor 2.0 who are like, hey, can I get a mentor? And we've got all these young boys in community based who are like, hey, can I get a mentor? So we're doing our best to kind of tell people, hey, how about you just go? It's still mentoring, just go to the other program.
Yeah, and how about on the little side? What's the ratio of males and females who apply to be littles?
Yeah, so again, it's one of those things where in our community based, the overwhelming number of young people who apply to be littles are boys. And it's the exact opposite for Mentor 2.0. So again, it's one of those things where the littles and bigs they have a different, their mindset as to which programs they're applying for. And we're just trying to strike the balance between the two. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that. So we just got to keep making progress.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept. I think like the traditional roles on males and females, females are typically viewed as more nurturing. So it makes sense that you say that they prefer to do the in-person mentoring. Um, and what's the minimum age for littles? Because you mentioned all the way down to 7 or 8.
So So they can start being mentored at 8. You can start the application at 7, but they start being mentored at 8. So that's the minimum age. And then if you include Mentor 2.0 and the young person's a part of a certain school, then the maximum age is 18. And I should actually also throw in, so I mentioned community based, which again is our in person, our biggest program where it's 4 hours a month, you're meeting in person post COVID, and Mentor 2.0, which is strictly online. You meet once in a blue moon, but it's all done through our online platform. In the middle of that is what we call our school-based mentorship program. And our school-based essentially is where we match you with a young person who goes to school close to where you work, right? So let's say, again, post-COVID, and let's say schools are open, right? Let's say I work at some office somewhere in Pasadena. It doesn't matter where I work, right? What we're going to do is once you apply, one of the schools that we work with in that school district, we will match you with a child in that school. And through the support of our match support specialists, so we have these people who are called match support specialists who support every single match. So it doesn't matter which program you're in, you're going to have somebody from our office with you and your little to help guide you through the ups and downs of mentorship. So in our school-based program, all that happens is on your lunch break, whatever your lunch break is, you're going into the school to hang out with the little, and then you're going back to work, right? And typically, post-COVID, when schools are open and we're doing face-to-face, you're going into schools 2 to 3 times a month, right? To hang out, whether it's play kickball outside or it's to play some type of board game or do a puzzle, whatever it is, you're just hanging out together. And I know for a fact, it's always funny that as an uncle, right, when I take my niece to school sometimes when schools were open, she'd be like, just leave me here and go away, because she's embarrassed, right? Because she's a kid and she's cool and I'm not, right? But for our littles, when their bigs are coming in, I am always shocked at how excited and proud the littles are of the bigs coming in, because I'm like, they're still an adult. I thought all adults were not cool. Why are you happy to see them, but never? My niece isn't happy to see me. But it's, I don't know. I guess there's a cool factor to it too. So I know just seeing how excited the littles get when they know their bigs are coming on certain days. So our school-based program, obviously completely contingent on schools opening, is also another option for anybody who's interested in mentoring.
So what you're saying is be a big and you'll have more cool factor.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And you'll get a free membership to the YMCA. If you don't have a gym membership, you'll get one to the YMCA. So that never hurts. So if you're ever wanting to do something with your little and you don't have an idea, or you don't want to do one of the things we provide, because typically we provide activities for all our matches every month. We provide 3 to 4 every month. Let's say you're like, I don't want to do anything they provided. Then go to the YMCA, because both of you get a free membership for being bigs and littles.
Yeah, that's a pretty good perk. So I have a lot more questions, because I've never participated in this program myself, and I'm really enjoying learning about it. Of course, I've always heard of Big Brothers Big Sisters everywhere I've lived. By the way, how long has Big Brothers Big Sisters been around?
It's been around over 100 years. And funny story about that, I was on the campus of TSU, and I was talking to a lady who walked up to me and she said, "Oh my God, I grew up with a little." And she started to explain the story where and this lady was in her 60s, and she was explaining that when she was a kid, she had 3 older brothers. Her dad at this time, who was a single father, has 4 kids, brought a little into their home. It was like, hey, I'm going to be a big brother to this kid, and we're going to incorporate him into our family. And at the time, she says, I was like, Dad, what are you doing? There's already 4 of us. And she said initially she was hesitant, but now in her 60s, at that very event that I was at with her at TSU, she was like, that guy in the corner, he's the little. We're like best friends. And we met 40 years ago. And I'm like, wow, that's like what we're looking for. We're looking to create matches that last a lifetime. Like, we have so many stories from bigs and littles who talk about, I was in so-and-so's wedding, or things like that are what we're looking for. We're not looking for, okay, you did your year and now it's done. We're looking for you did how you guys were matched for however long you were matched, and you just became genuine family.
Yeah, that's such an inspiring story. And like you said, you're looking for people who can be a positive influence on the little, but that's a story of how they were also a positive influence on their own children and how they're helping other people. So that probably made a big influence on those children as well. So much awesome information. And I'm really excited about this program too. So there's so many things that you can do as a big. It sounds like it's pretty much open-ended what you do with your little. But of course, the littles are underage, and there has to be some involvement with their parent to go through the application process. So how does that communication work between the big and the minor?
So essentially, before the big and the minor ever meet, before the big and the little ever meet, what happens is we set up a meeting with our match support specialist. So our match support specialist, the big and the little's guardian will all meet now virtually, but before and after COVID in person. And they'll meet in person, and our match support specialist will facilitate this introduction to make it a smooth transition for everybody, because obviously initial introductions can be awkward, right? So our match support specialist, their entire role is to know the big and the little as well as anybody can possibly know anybody. So they do a great job of putting everybody at ease and making the initial interaction smooth. And then when you go on from there, the next time the big wants to spend time with the little in our community-based program, you're contacting the guardian, right? And you're setting up, hey, I was planning on going to the park to feed the birds at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Is so and so available? Yes, she is. Okay, great. Go pick her up, go to the park, and then return, right? Now it's one of those things where, again, this is where having people who are military vets comes in handy, right? Because what we never want is a mentor who's like, oh, I will be there Sunday at 1, doesn't show up. Or I will be there Monday at 3, doesn't, like, that type of inconsistency doesn't typically happen with military veterans because they're disciplined people and they stick to their commitments, right? So that's a big part of us reaching out to people in the Combined Arms family. So definitely there is a lot of contact with the parent and guardian to make sure that the relationship between their child and the mentor is going well. But there's also the contact from the match support specialist. And the match support specialist, they do a great job of making sure that individually, the big and the little understand that they can always tell them anything and everything, and it'll be kept confidential unless they want them to tell the other party, right? Because their entire role is to be the facilitator of this relationship. So they do a really great job of making sure that everybody feels good about what's going on and there's crystal clear communication.
Okay, so I did have a question about confidentiality since you brought it up. What are there any other limits to confidentiality with a big and a little?
In terms of,
Like, are there things that that they may be mandatory to report, for example?
okay, so like, are they a mandatory reporter of X, Y, and Z if something happens? I think for us, there's a long list of things that when you go through our training process, we give you all the tools you need to be a mentor. As in, if there are things that you're supposed to be watching out for, key phrases, key words, key behaviors from your little, right? We're going to train you up on that. We're going to give you all the tools you need to be an effective mentor, but also because we don't expect you to be a robot and remember every single thing, if there's something you hear or see that I'm not sure, that's why the match support specialist is there. You contact your match support specialist and they will help you figure out what you heard or what you saw and figure out what the next steps are. So you're always going to have somebody in the big's corner and the little's corner to help them figure out whatever questions that they have.
Okay, and then you mentioned like picking up your littles. Are the bigs able to provide transportation for their littles? Is there anything that's off limits?
So yeah, so our bigs, when you initially sign up, you are required to provide your driver's license number and proof of car insurance. So you are required to provide that. And if you can't provide that, then you can't be a mentor in our community-based program, because how are you going to go get the little if you can't? So for us, it's one of those things where we understand that obviously not everybody has access to transportation that might enable them to do that type of mentorship. Then that's why we have a different type of mentorship program where you can just do it online, or you can just go to the little school, whether that's via bus or Uber or whatever it is. So if you don't have a vehicle, then maybe our community program isn't for you. But our other two programs are, because you don't need to have a consistent vehicle for you to go pick them up. You just have to have consistent transportation to get to where you need to be.
And how does the school program work? Do they also have to go through the parent or guardian, or is that just a waiver with the school and they only see the little in the school system?
That's a great question. So the school program, there is little to very little communication as far as the big to the guardian. The majority of the communication in the school program is the big, the match support specialist, and the school, and then the match support specialist, the school, and the guardian, right? Because the big at this point, like you mentioned, is going into the school, right? And the school has all, whether you're talking about HISD or Fort Bend ISD or Spring ISD, whatever ISD you're talking about, each school district has their rules and regulations that any adult visiting the school has to go through. So everything our bigs do is cleared through the school and the school district prior to them arriving.
Yeah, so I think everything you've mentioned with the background checks, with the proof of insurance, driver's license, and even having to go into the schools, which I know being a volunteer in a school, you have to go through a background check with them as well. All of that should give the parents and guardians good ease of mind that that the bigs that their children are working with, have been vetted and that they're going to be good.
Yeah, we our priority number one, two, three, four, and five on our top five is child safety, right? Everything we do is to make sure the children that we are servicing are safe. Nothing else matters if the child isn't safe, right? So for us, everything and anything is about child safety. And if there's anything that, well, hey, we could really get X, Y, and Z if we do this, well, it doesn't matter if it's not safe for the child, so we're not going to do it. So for us, child safety is definitely number one.
All right. Well, I think I'm ready to sign up to be a big. So thank you for sharing all of the information. And in case anybody is interested in being a part of this or applying to be trained to be a big, how can they contact you? Do you have some contact information you can share?
Yeah, I definitely have contact information. I'm gonna. I don't know. Can they see our chat, or they cannot see our chat?
No, but I can paste it into the Facebook comments.
Okay, great. So I can give y'all my email, and y'all can contact me. The email address would be T as in Tom, AGB as in blue, OKE at bbbstx.org. So that's TAGBOKE at bbbstx.org. And if you're just ready to apply and you don't need to hear anything from me at all, you can just go to our website at www.bbbstx.org and apply right now on our website. But if you do have questions, or let's say you work somewhere where you're like, well, I would really love for them to talk to other people who work with me, email me and we can set up a presentation for your coworkers, for you. We can do a one-on-one presentation. We can do 1 in 5. It doesn't really matter. We're open to all types of things.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was another thing I was wondering is how can different groups or organizations get involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters? Do you have groups of people who come in and mentor?
So all of our mentoring is one-to-one. But what we do have is, let's say a fraternity comes in and they say, hey, we want all our fraternity brothers to become bigs. They all apply, they all go through the process, right? And they can all mentor. But it's not going to be a situation where it's one big and 3 littles. It's always going to be 1-to-1. But the only situation in which that differs is if you're a part of what we call big couple. So let's say you're married or you have a long-term partner. If y'all decide you want to mentor together, then y'all would both go through the application process. You'd both go through the interview process, the background checks, etc. And then we would match you as a couple to a young person, right? And if you did big couple, you always have to be matched to, typically, if there's a male big involved, if there's a male big involved in big couple, you have to be matched to a little who's a boy. You cannot be matched to a little who's a girl if there's a male big involved. If it's 2 female bigs, then you can be matched to a female little. And we also have what we call big family. So a big family is if, kind of like the story I told earlier, let's say you decide as a adult, as a big, hey, I want my whole family to get into this whole mentoring thing. Then the whole family goes through the process of interviewing, applying, etc. And then all of you can mentor. And a perfect reason people do that is, let's say I have a busy schedule and my partner has a busy schedule, but we know that we're both available at different times. So on one day, it's me and our family and the little. On another day, it's my partner, the little, and our family, right? So that way it can be different bigs with the little who have all gone through the process, all been applied and checked and vetted to make sure that they can be around the little. So it just makes it, for people who might not necessarily always have time, it makes it easier to do it because your whole family's vetted.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the information. We'll get your contact information and the link to your website posted in the comments on this Facebook Live. Also, if anybody's interested or has any further questions and they want to start the application process or be a part of Big Brothers Big Sisters, they are a member organization of Combined Arms. So
Yes.
you can go through, take our assessments for volunteerism, and get connected to Big Brothers Big Sisters. So thank you, Tunde, so much for your time today. And excellent conversation. We're so glad that we had you today, and have a great day and a great weekend.
Thank you. And Tina, can I mention one last thing?
Yes, you may.
Just so y'all know, we actually have one campaign going on right now that's called the Black Men Mentoring Challenge. So of course we want everybody to apply to be a mentor, but this campaign is specifically targeted towards Black men. And what we are doing with that campaign is we are partnered with the mayor's office, the Houston Health Department, My Brother's Keeper, and the Houston Peace Coalition. And our goal is to dramatically increase the number of Black males who become mentors in Greater Houston. And kind of like I said at the beginning of this, we don't believe that Black males aren't applying to be mentors because they don't want to be, just like we don't believe females aren't applying to Mentor 2.0 because they don't want to be. For us, it's a matter of getting the information out there. Because typically, once we let people know we have this type of service, typically people are interested in doing it. So this is our effort to let Black males in Houston know we have this type of service. And
Oops, I guess I had a little bit of connection difficulty there. So I didn't hear
all
everything that
right.
you said, but hopefully our
Well,
audience
thanks
got
again,
that.
Tina, for having us. And if you're gonna post my contact information, hopefully we get some new volunteers.
All right. Thank you so much,
All right.
Tunde. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.